I recently saw the body cam video of a Galveston, Texas police officer arresting a woman for not wearing a mask in a local bank. While many seem appalled by the actions of the officer, I see this as an excellent example of how ignorance of our rights has led to the situation this woman was in. So we'll discuss this next on the Constitution Study.
There's one thing you have to know wherever you make your stand. Came from a long through line of everyday Americans.
Hello there, everyday Americans. Paul Engel here with the Constitution Study. That's right, this is where we read and study the Constitution. We teach the rising generation to be free. I am glad you can join me. For everyone I met up in the conference in Nashville, it was a great opportunity to meet you. I enjoyed the talks that we had. And if you are interested in having me come to speak at an event in your area, please reach out through the website, constitutionstudy.com. Let me know. I love getting out and talking to people, and I'm hoping to have some more opportunities to do this in the near future. You can always check my schedule at the website constitutionstudy.com. So let's get started with this event that happened in Texas. Founding Father John Jay once said, "Every member of the state ought diligently to read and to study the Constitution of his country and teach the rising generation to be free. By knowing their rights, they will sooner perceive when they are violated and be the better prepared to defend and assert them." Barely a week after Governor Abbott lifted the state's mask mandate, we see an example where someone was not prepared to assert their rights correctly, leading to a rather unpleasant incident for this person. Terry Wright of Oregon walked into a bank in Galveston, Texas without a mask. Now, although I did not see them, apparently there were signs requiring those in the bank to wear masks. When this woman was asked to leave, she refused, which led to a bank employee calling the police. Ms. Wright refused to leave when asked by the officer, stating, quote, "The law says I do not have to wear a mask." Now, this is where general ignorance about rights can lead people into some real trouble. So that's where I want to start. I've talked before about the illegality of government mask mandates. Governor Abbott's mandate not only violated the U.S. Constitution's Fifth Amendment, but probably the Constitution of the state of Texas as well. And if the deprivation of liberty inherent in government officials forcing you to wear a mask in public isn't bad enough, forcing private businesses to require them is a deprivation of property prohibited by the Fifth Amendment, and again, probably by the Constitution of Texas. What was wrong with Ms. Wright's attempt to do business in the bank without a mask is a basic misunderstanding of how to legitimately exercise her rights. I've written and spoken extensively about rights, but I can sum them up in two simple sentences. You cannot legitimately exercise a right by infringing on the legitimate rights of another. Therefore, for a right to be legitimate, you must be capable of exercising it without infringing on the rights of others. Ms. Wright has a right to be at liberty, including going around without a mask. Governor Abbott's executive order to the contrary was a violation of the constitutions of both Texas and the United States, and according to both Alexander Hamilton in Federalist Papers number 78 and Chief Justice Marshall in the Marbury v. Madison case, that order was void. The fact that Governor Abbott repealed his illegal mask mandate does not impact the legitimate use of someone's rights. The bank, however, is private property. It is owned by a private company and paid for with private funds. The fact that the bank is open to the public does not make the building public property. As the owners of that property, the bank has the right to do with it what they want. Just as the bank had the legal right to tell Governor Abbott to pound sand when he ordered them to require masks, they have the right to refuse service to anyone who does not wear one. Some of you may be asking, what about Ms. Wright's right not to wear a mask? Well, she's free to exercise that right, up until the point that she infringes on the rights of another. In this case, she was free to go around in public without a mask, but she did not have the right to violate the bank's mask policy. So when Ms. Wright claimed the law says that I do not have to wear a mask, the officer was correct in responding, "You do not in public, but you're not in public. This is not a public place. This is a private business." Ms. Wright had to decide if doing business in the bank was worth more than her not wearing a mask. Instead, she attempted to force her opinion on the owners of the bank by entering in violation of their policy and then refusing to leave. She was trespassing. She intruded onto private property without permission, then resisted the law enforcement officer who arrested her. The injury she apparently sustained while resisting arrest is not the officer's fault, but that of Ms. Wright when she fought against a lawful demand by the officer to leave the premises. And sadly, by assuming she could violate the wishes of the property owner because she was doing business with them, she has furthered the wrong idea that we have a right to do what we want on other people's property as long as it's open to the public or the government says so. This question of private property has come up repeatedly, not only regarding the wearing of masks, but the carrying of arms. Ms. Wright's apparent ignorance of the fact that she has no right to go onto private property however she sees fit has led to her arrest. This general ignorance of many Americans has probably led others into similar situations, which means John Jay's quote bears repeating. Every member of the state ought diligently to read and to study the Constitution of his country and teach the rising generation to be free. By knowing their rights, they will sooner perceive when they are violated and be the better prepared to defend and assert them. We should all know our rights and be prepared to defend and assert them. But we need to do so properly. That means not only recognizing our rights, but the rights of everyone. That also means not asserting our rights if they infringe on the rights of another. If a private business requires that you wear a mask or shirt or shoes or even without arms, it is their right. It is also your right to determine if you wish to do business with them. Perhaps more people should listen to Mr. J. If they had read and studied the Constitution of their country and, by the way, their state as well, and if we taught the rising generation to be free, maybe then fewer people would be arrested for exercising their rights by violating the rights of others. This is not an unfamiliar situation for me. As I mentioned, the conference I was at in Nashville, the conference center required that people wear masks. I had to decide, was attending the event that I had paid for more important to me than wearing a mask? I wore a mask. I wasn't happy about it, and I discussed it with several of the people who were there, but a private organization set that as a requirement for me being on their premises, so I complied. I made a logical, rational decision that being at that conference was more important than the discomfort of wearing a mask. And a lot of other people I met there did as well. But as soon as I left their property, that mask came off. The fact that the county had a mask mandate didn't mean a thing to me because that order was void. It was a violation of my rights under the U.S. Constitution, under the Tennessee Constitution. It was of no value. Now, I didn't meet any law enforcement officers. I didn't have to stand up for that right, although I did spend a fair amount of time at the conference discussing and debating mask mandates with people at the event. Hopefully, we all got a little bit smarter, a little more educated about that. But it brings me back to the point. It is important to understand how to defend and assert our rights properly. If you assert your right by infringing on the rights of another, well, then we're not all created equal, as the Declaration of Independence says. It is just as important, by the way, to tell those private property owners of your displeasure, and in the case of your deciding not to do business with them, exactly why. They need to understand that if people won't come onto their premises with a mask, that's their decision. They also, by the way, need to understand that counties and states do not have the authority to deprive them of their property by a mandate. So hopefully this will be a learning opportunity. Learn from what happened to Ms. Wright in Galveston, Texas. Apparently from the news I've read recently, she hasn't learned her lesson. Maybe we will. We may dislike these rules, but it is private property, and we have to decide if we're going to respect the rights of others. One of the people I was talking to at the conference, we had an interesting discussion, and I made the point that it is actually more important for me to protect the rights of others than for me to protect my own rights. You see, if I protect my own rights, I'm a solitary person. As I believe Benjamin Franklin said, we must all hang together or we will surely hang separately. If all I care about are my rights, I'm going to hang separately. On the other hand, when I protect your rights and our neighbors' rights and our family's rights, we can hang together and we can defeat the tyrannical purposes of those in state and local governments. So hopefully you found this interesting. Please head over to the website, constitutionstudy.com, find out more. I ask you to do one thing. Please do me one favor. Take these videos, take the articles, take the content that I put together on Constitution Study and share it with others. Share it with friends, share it with family, share it on social media. Teach not only the rising generation, but your neighbors about their rights and how to properly exercise them. If you want to get deeper, head over to my other website, constitutionscholars.com. Now, this is where we can get together, we can join and talk about different issues happening in the different states. It's absolutely free. I recommend that you join your state's group and find out what's going on in your state and begin to discuss and debate it with others. Maybe you'll find a friend or another kindred spirit in your state that is just as interested in the Constitution as you are. Let us realize we are not alone. We can start finding each other, banding together, hanging together for the sacred fires of liberty to remain in the United States. And if you found this of any use at all, not only will you share it, but I hope I'll see you here next time on the Constitution Study.